Like sands through the hourglass, these are the days of the expanded universe. Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Cinema Craptaculus Presents the Expanded Universe, with your hosts John H. Ford, Mario Doc Diaz, and Smoore. From movies to TV series to toys to comics to pop culture to daytime drama, this show is your safe space for all things geeky and where you can get your geek on. This is John H., and with me as always are my geektacular co-hosts.
This is Doc.
And Smoore. We're back!
Yes, long absence. No, it's just a bit of a break. You know, kind of make people miss us, hopefully.
They missed us. They're crying right now, tears of joy, happy to hear us again. I feel it. I feel y'all. We're back. We're here for you.
We're back in time, just in time for this special, very special theme for today.
And our special theme is soap operas. Or rather, daytime dramas, as folks in the industry would prefer they be called. Kind of like, Trekkies have always wanted to be called Trekkers, but I think they've lost that battle. Anyway, we have geeked out on just about everything here on the Expanded Universe, and it occurred to us that there is one genre, one particular entertainment appetite, or cult worship, perhaps, or faithful following we've never touched, and that, of course, is soaps. General Hospital just celebrated its 60th year broadcasting on ABC.
It's a long time.
And a long time. And with its other fellow daytime dramas, Days of Our Lives on NBC, and The Young and the Restless, and The Bold and the Beautiful on CBS, there seems to be an unmatched longevity to this genre, despite the changing entertainment landscape and dwindling audiences. Back in 1990, there were around 16 daytime dramas airing, and as of 2023, there are 4. But that doesn't mean that soap fans have given up. Yeah, if anything, they've rallied around these surviving shows and keep the candle burning, or rather the soap sudsing. No. Well,
soap sudsing, soapy.
I was gonna ask you guys how many soaps were actually still on, because soaps aren't really my thing. I know you guys watch them a little bit more, but I'm glad you gave us a heads up. There was 4 left, because I was really curious as to how many were still in the air.
Well, we are lucky to have our own super fan within our ranks. Smoore here has been a faithful viewer of General Hospital for nearly his whole life.
What?
What's the hook? Why watch this genre that seems to repeat tales of melodrama over and over? Characters dying and coming back to life, couples getting together and breaking apart, only to reunite over and over, and those crazy plots, evil twins, espionage, James Bond-type villains, witchcraft, even demonic possessions. We got so much to talk about here.
Vampires and werewolves.
You know what? For me, the hook is very simple, and this relates to I'm assuming our comic book fans as well, since I'm a comic book fan. Soap operas are the adult live version of comic books without the superpowers. Although, depending on the soap, sometimes they could actually have superpowers. It's storytelling at its wackiest, as finest, as cheesiest, and the bottom line is drama. People like drama, and this is cheesy goodness drama.
I want to talk a bit about General Hospital,
Right.
And I think we should mention that just last week, General Hospital's, I don't know what you'd call her, longest-running character, but sort of the Grand Rock of Port Charles, Jackie Zeman, yes, she played the character of who?
Barbara Jean Spencer, sister of the legendary Luke Spencer, legendary scoundrel Luke Spencer.
Nurse Bobby Spencer. She passed away at age 70. Although she didn't look a day over 40. She was, we can talk a little bit about General Hospital, but I just remember first watching it when I was a kid, and I just remember her. Yeah. And so she's been on it for, 45 years. So, Smoore, General Hospital, when did you start watching it?
Well, let me give you a little background as to why I got into it. So, my mom was very, very young when she had me. As a matter of fact, she was a teenager when she had me. She was still working and going to school, and essentially she needed a babysitter. Now, my mom grew up also watching General Hospital. She loved it, and she recognized that not only did she like watching it, but I would sit alongside her watching as well and became the perfect babysitter for her. I mean,
Mhm.
not recommending television to be your babysitter for your child, but it worked for me. And I've been hooked ever since. So part of it, it reminds me of my mom. But part of it is, it felt like a live action comic book to me, except at least during those times, they didn't have superpowers, but they had the wacky storylines. You know, the Ice Princess storyline where a manacle family tried to take over the world, and heroes like Luke Spencer and Robert Scorpio had to save the day. And that, to me, as a child, was fascinating.
I just remember those characters. I got into it around that same entry point. It was right around the time that Prince Charles and Princess Diana got married, and I think that era kind of coincided with the big marriage of the big wedding of Luke and Laura, which I think at the time was like one of the highest watched moments of television. Which is weird, but people forget that those audiences, like those shows, had huge ratings.
Oh, God, ridiculous ratings. I mean, I have to research this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still think that daytime number still stands. The Wedding of Luke and Laura. And if you watch The Wedding of Luke and Laura, it really mirrored the wedding of Princess Charles and Lady
Well,
Diana.
I don't recall one of Laura's suitors jumping down and trying to ruin it, and Prince Charles decking him. But maybe that would have that could have happened.
That
No, it would have been
happened.
Camilla. Camilla tried to jump down and deck Diana, but I mean, they had like Elizabeth Taylor guested on the show at the time.
Can you tell our audience what character she played?
It was a Cassadine,
Yes.
but I can't remember her first name, like Alexandra or something. Or
Quick update for you guys. The Cassadine is one of the most evil families in General Hospital, headed
Sounds
by
evil.
headed by Helena Cassadine, played
Helena
by
Cassadine.
Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, again, there's a lot of other soaps that we could do tons of shows on. I think General Hospital is around, but not just because it's a legacy, but it definitely had, it was really good at blending attractive people with just characters that had personality. There was,
Right.
Frisco Jones, played by Jack Wagner, and Sean Donnelly and Robert Scorpio, and these were characters that played well with anti-heroes like Luke Spencer, and I think one thing soaps have always done is they get these bad guys, and maybe because of the charm of the actor or just because the guy's really good looking, they end up like morphing them into reformed bad boys
Right.
a lot, and girls too.
Well, circling back to what Sean was saying about comparing soaps to comic books, they do that in comic books as well. It's like you have these
Right.
characters like Venom and Deadpool who are introduced as villains and bad guys, and they become so popular that they switch them around and become like these anti-heroes.
Yeah.
Or look in the movies. Look at Magneto.
Yeah, exactly. He was the X-Men's main villain, and now he's one of their main allies. He's actually an X-Man now.
Really quick, I wanted to point out that the soap opera characters have such amazing names, like Scorpio, Cassadine. I guess when you can make up names, you can make up names sound as cool as you want.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of these soaps, they all started with the very basics of daily life. They would be people that own restaurants. They frequently took place at a hospital, obviously General Hospital. There'd be lawyers, and then there'd be the wealthy family. And I think that's
Right.
something that goes back to old Civil War era dime novels, where there'd be the wealthy plantation owner and the heroines. Gone with the Wind was very popular, and I think
Right.
sort of our fascination with wealth and wealthy families seemed to bled over into soaps. But really, they didn't get into the crazy spy supernatural stuff until the 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think that's when soap operas truly blew up in the 80s. The numbers were soaring high, and, we were dealing with the Cold War in the 80s. We're dealing with the superpowers trying to compete against each other. We've already had
Yeah.
James Bond. We had the explosion of, comic books getting a little bit darker and grittier. So I think soap operas had to sort of follow suit. So if you notice, you have a lot of spy agencies developing soap operas. You have a lot of adventurers showing up in soap operas, and villainous families trying to take over the world.
Smoore, what was the name of the main spy agency on General Hospital?
That would be the WSB.
And do you remember their Soviet counterpart on the other side?
Wait, is it CJX? KGX? I should know this.
I think it was the DVX.
DVX, yes, DVX.
And what do those stand for?
No clue.
The WSB is World Spy Bureau.
I love how they don't even say. I love how they don't even say espionage or intelligence. It's just
For spies.
Spy Bureau. They might as well just call it Spies Are Us.
Pretty much. And DVX, I think, is the, detente extra something ridiculous in the vein of Spectre.
My favorite part of a lot of soaps, particularly, well, they did it on Young and the Restless with Michael Damian, but going back to General Hospital, is how they'd get like a big pop star, or a character would become very well known for being a rock star, and they'd work it into the storyline. So I think the first one, of course, was the legendary Rick Springfield as who?
Jesse's girl.
What was his character on General Hospital?
Oh, I'm blanking.
Dr.
Noah Drake. Dr. Noah Drake, yes.
Another great name.
Was he moonlighting as a rock star at night, or did they keep it separate from the show?
No, he was a doctor by day, rock star by night, and since he was such a popular rock star, he oftentimes went undercover for the WSB.
No, you're mixing him up with Frisco Jones.
Oh,
that
damn, you're right. That was Frisco. Never mind.
Well, Jack Wagner popped, and they decided to make him a spy, but he would go undercover in Europe to doing his gigs.
Frisco Jones.
But let's pivot for a moment, if we will, to another surviving show that most people know about, and that would be Days of Our Lives.
Yes.
And we had a very pivotal occasion, I think it was just last week they aired it, that Deirdre Hall, a.k.a. Dr. Marlena Doc Evans, she recorded her 5,000th episode, making her the longest-running soap actor in history.
That's
5,000? Oh, my gosh.
Hats off to her.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And the way they did the episode, I'll just have to sort of give you a rendition. Basically, Marlena and her husband, John Black, they're still together. They went out for a night on the town and have dinner. And he says,
I would like to propose a toast to you, Doc. What an incredible career you've had and continue to have. You've provided so much care and comfort for people in need. And through your hard work and dedication, your dignity, your style, your grace, the most important thing, your loving heart, you've made an indelible mark not only on this town, but the entire world. So here's to you, Dr. Marlena Evans. You are a true legend.
That's subtle.
So here's a cheer to Deirdre Hall, 5,000 episodes.
You saved me. And thanks to you, Devil is gone. Gone from Salem. Gone from all of our lives.
And just to have a job that long, I mean, think about that. I mean, any job, but to do a job 5,000 days, that's a long time.
Well, I tell my friends all the time, if I had to become a celebrity/actor, the gig I would want would be a soap opera gig. Why? Because it's steady work, especially if the fans like you. B, you can potentially work that job for decades and get a check. And you'll have your fans, but I can still go to like Home Depot and not get mobbed. Because unless you watch soap operas, no one will know who I am. I think that's perfect.
And if you ever wanted a break, they can just kill you off, and then like 2 years later, they can just resurrect you.
Exactly.
Yes, you can come back, or if you don't do well at your job, they don't need to get rid of the character. They just put you in a fiery crash and have plastic surgery, and then boom, new actor.
But then I'll come back later as my twin.
We had General Hospital actor Mark Anthony Samuels on Cinema Craptaculus a few years ago, and he said he was very grateful because he had basically a 9-to-5 job essentially, and a lot of these people, there's very few people in the entertainment industry that can have regular lives. They can have weekends, they can have families.
Right.
And I think a lot of people really appreciate that. But I feel bad. If you're down to 4 shows out of originally like 16, 30 years ago, 4 shows is not a lot of opportunity.
No.
Smoore, do you see a lot of actors from other soaps that have come on to General Hospital in Days and Young and the Restless from other soaps?
Oh, God, absolutely. I mean, you see it all the time. Even back when there were lots of soaps, you saw actors pretty much intermingled between the soaps. For example, on General Hospital, there's a character, one of my favorites. His character's name is Stefan Cassadine. But longtime Days of Our Lives fans will recognize the actor Stephen Nichols as Patch Johnson.
And he's gone back and forth. Like he will. It's almost like having 2 different streaming series. Like he would go back from one, and he would go back. Like they never kill him off, right?
No, they never kill him off. Or if they did kill him off, he'll find a way to come back miraculously. Oh, that's my twin. Or that I took this toxic substance that kept my body preserved for years. That actually happened, y'all.
You guys used to work. If I may say, you guys used to work. On the Prospect lot where they shot the ABC soaps. I think Was it just General Hospital, or were they also shooting like One Life to Live or some of the others?
They used to shoot One Life to Live in General Hospital there. Then when One Life to Live went off the air, it was just General Hospital.
Did they ever shoot Port Charles there?
Yes, they did.
In Port Charles.
And you guys saw some of the actors on the lot, right?
Oh, absolutely. Including my favorite, Kelly Monaco.
Well, it's funny because kind of like you guys were saying about it's like a 9-to-5 job. When we worked on the Prospect lot, it actually did feel like they were our coworkers. Because during lunch, we'd head down to the commissary to eat, and they'd be sitting at the tables next to us. And then on the lot, we'd run into each other, talk, and say hi to these actors, these soap actors.
Yeah.
So it did feel like they were our coworkers.
Right. And most of them were pretty friendly, too. It's like they'll interact with you. It's not like it didn't feel like your typical celebrity. If they see you, they see you a lot and they recognize you, they'll say, hey, hello, what's up? What's going on? Or like certain characters and certain actors give us a performance of their character.
Are you talking about the day that the two of us, we were on a break, so we were outside sitting on a bench? Is that the time we were talking about?
Doc, tell that story. It's amazing.
So it's in the afternoon, middle of the week. Sean and I are on our break. We're sitting on a bench, just kicking back, just chatting. All of a sudden, we see this car coming toward us, slowly rolling up. I'm not sure if it was like
It was a Jaguar.
It was a Jaguar, okay.
Yeah.
It was a Jaguar, and they have the stereo going. It's like
Bumping 50 Cent.
It's blasting 50 Cent. And we're like looking at this car like, who the heck is in this car? And why are they like rolling up so slowly up to the bench that we were sitting on? And where the bench was, there was a stop, like a stop sign. And so this car rolls up. It stops right next to us. The window rolls down slowly. Inside is Sonny Corinthos, Maurice Bernard, with sunglasses, and Jason. Who's the other?
Steve Burton, a.k.a. Jason Morgan.
The two of them are sitting there, and at the same time, they turn slowly, look at us, nod, turn back, roll up the window, and keep going.
Still bumping 50 Cent like gangsters.
And Sean and I nodded back. We nodded back. And then after when they rolled away, we were just busting up laughing on the bench.
We need to find at least one of those actors and get them on the show, and then just have them like see if they were. And they honestly, they probably would remember that moment for whatever reason. That's funny.
Well, they probably would remember us because, like I said, we would see them daily on the lot. And then there was one time I was at DCA at California Adventure, and coming out of the Grand Californian, coming into the park, it was Maurice Bernard and I guess his family. And so I was standing there, and they were coming through like the turnstiles, and we made eye contact. And I was like, oh, it's Maurice Bernard. But he recognized me. He looked at me and he like waved and smiled. So I was kind of like,
that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, what's funny is the reason they probably remember that is it's probably a thing they do like every day. If there's someone on the bench, they roll up, and they probably do that every day. Oh, there's people on the bench. Let's get 50 Cent.
Every afternoon.
Well, I have a theory. My theory is that they're not acting. They're actually those characters.
Hey, we'll be right back. And now, back to the show.
Well, that brings up an interesting question, because these shows are a unique bird, because you could be on a TV show, like a nighttime TV show, and who's the longest character on who was on ER or Grey's Anatomy or any of these shows that are 15 seasons. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But these soap actors, particularly Deidre Hall and the late Jackie Zeman and so many others, they live with these characters for decades. Many of them, that's the only role that they've really done.
Yeah.
Deirdre Hall has kind of been fortunate, or I don't know what her ambitions were, maybe unfortunate. Perhaps they would love to have done other things, get into primetime shows or whatever. But it's a paycheck, and it's a good living. But that's who you play. I wonder if they can separate. I mean, to them, obviously, they know they're not their character because they don't get possessed by demons. They don't have evil twins.
Demon!
But I'll bet you the public does not separate them when they see them.
Yeah, and I can see that. Again, these actors and these characters, they have super fans out there. General Hospital in particular, every year, at least for a while into the pandemic, and I think they might have brought it back this year, they have something called like General Hospital Fest or Soap Fest, where a lot of these actors go out, usually is in Orlando or is in Dallas, is in a major city, where they go out and they meet their fans, and these fans, they come in the thousands. They have their memorabilia. They want, they want to talk to the fans. They
Yeah.
sit down, they have sessions, and it's amazing and crazy how much these people are invested in their lives. Not the actors, the characters. And so they ask, the actors, hey, what's going to happen to this character next? It's remarkable.
So the daytime dramas used to be such a launching pad for so many big film actors. And a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of those shows, a lot of soaps were done in New York. So you get a lot of Broadway actors, people with, strong theater pedigrees and classical trained backgrounds. And, from Kevin Bacon to Ray Liotta to, I think, Meryl Streep. A lot of these
Reynolds.
people, oh my gosh, there's so many. And I don't know if that's the case now, because I feel like with soaps primarily in Los Angeles, and I noticed particularly in the 90s, them casting a lot of young teenagers with not much acting ability. What's her name? Who's the actress that played Sammy on Days of Our Lives? She's hosted some TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
They start young and they don't have any training. And, a lot of them kind of get better as they go. But it seemed like in the old days, like 30, 40 years ago, they would want people who had classical trained backgrounds or New York theater chops. Now, not so much. They'll start them when they're 16, and as long as they look good.
Right. Allison Sweeting, by the way, is her name.
Allison Sweeney.
Yeah, wasn't like Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan, weren't they both on soaps when they were teenagers?
Yes, they were both on All My Children. Michael B. Jordan played the character first. He left, and I believe Chadwick Boseman replaced him, and then they brought Michael B. Jordan back. So for a short time, they were both on screen together in All My Children.
Wow.
Also,
That's crazy.
another famous actress who got started in All My Children is Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played
That's right. Yeah.
Kendall Davis, the daughter of Erica Kane,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yes.
Erica King.
Susan Lucci is another famous name, and she kind of retired the character with the show. Like when the show was canceled, it's interesting. They did cross-pollinate some of those ABC soaps. They could have brought them over, but I think she was like, nope, I'm done.
Well, she had been in the game for 30, 40 years as well.
Yeah. There's shows like Young and the Restless. I remember watching it when my mom was around. Like you, we would watch stuff. So I watched One Life to Live and those shows on some of the other ones. But then there was a show called, what was it? Santa Barbara.
Santa
You
Barbara.
remember that?
I do remember that.
And they did a lot of location shooting. They did a lot of took advantage of the California landscape. And I remember back in the day, they had the budgets to do on location adventure stuff. And sometimes they'd go overseas,
For the record, do you guys remember the first one and only black soap opera that came in daytime for a while?
Oh, what was that?
It was called Generations.
Yes.
And they
that's
specifically
right.
had powerful black families.
What year was that?
The 90s, like maybe 94, 95, something like that.
Well, internationally, the concept of a soap opera is nothing new. Over here in the UK, there's these long-running ones. There's 3, I think, Emmerdale and a couple others. They're just like American soap operas, but they're prime time.
They have EastEnders.
Yeah, EastEnders is popular, but what about some of the ones down in Latin America? There's some pretty-
Telenovelas.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's funny because in the past, the first time that I ever found out you guys were General Hospital fans or GH fans was when we were working together. And I found you guys talking for about an hour, and I would give you guys a hard time about it. But honestly, it's like with the telenovelas, that's what I grew up watching. So it's like I can't really make fun of you guys because my mom used to watch the soap operas kind of like your mom used to watch hers. So I'd be there as a kid watching these soaps. The major difference is that a lot of these Spanish soap operas, they would last for 3 months, 4 months, and the story would be over. And then after you'd hop over to the next one. So I watched quite a few different ones over the years. I can still remember some of the theme songs in my head, some of the storylines. There was one, it's funny because the other day I saw on the side of a bus, the name of a soap opera, and I was like, oh, are they rebooting it? They made a musical of this soap opera that was popular 30 years ago, and I was like,
That's
what
great.
the heck? But it's like novelas, they're big in Latin America. Some of them catch on, I don't know, for example, Ugly Betty was Betty La Fea, and then of course they made that into Ugly Betty. And then in the opposite direction, we had Desperate Housewives here. And then in Latin America, they remade it for a Spanish speaking audience.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Doc, weren't you named after a soap opera star?
Yeah, I guess the story goes that when my mom was young, there was a novella that she was into and one of the characters that she was a really big fan of, it stuck with her, the character's name. And so, yeah, basically when she grew up, got married, and had kids, when it came to naming me, she's like, what about this name? And no, the character's name was not Duck.
And your dad was okay with that?
Yeah, well, because it's a common name, so it's like, it wasn't like Luis Scorpio. It wasn't like that. It was just a common name.
Scorpio.
Yeah.
That's a character I'd like to see you dress up as for Halloween, and only we will know. Only we will know who you are. You know, it's funny. The '80s and the '90s, it was such a great way for me to bond with girls. It was like a way to not a way to date, but like in college. And I'm sure everybody who went to college in the late '80s and the early '90s have similar stories. That you would come home from your classes, and if you had a co-ed dormitory, particularly, you would all gather for 3:00 to watch Days of Our Lives, or you'd gather for General Hospital, whatever the soap was. And I'd find myself in a dorm room with like 4 other girls, and we're all just cheering on, oh my gosh, there's Patch and Kayla. And I'm like, yeah, I know who these characters are. And it was like a parlance, it was a way to chat because it was
John,
consistent.
You sure they didn't think of you as one of the girls?
They probably did. Yeah.
I think John Ford would show up with baked goods and say, "Oh yeah, I bake in my spare time."
I bake. Yeah. But you don't need to see every episode. You say like you had classes and you missed it. You show up on Friday, they recap the week for you. Or if you show up on Monday, they'll tell you what happened Friday. It usually was the cliffhanger on Friday, right?
Oh yeah. Mostly Fridays, cliffhangers.
Oh, that's cool.
Smoore, before we go, who are some of your favorite characters in all of daytime?
Okay, so I have 4 major favorite characters. I'll just name a few of them. On General Hospital, Stefan Cassadine, the heir of the Cassadine family who took over long after his brother and fathers were killed by my other favorite, the scoundrel Luke Spencer, who is basically Han Solo for General Hospital. And then
Curly hair.
With curly hair.
Nicholas and I have decided to stay on here for now.
Really? I'd invest in storms and screens. It gets buggy out here.
Aren't you going to ask why?
Like you tell me? It doesn't matter.
That sounds like a phrase to have engraved on your tombstone.
No, that's already picked out. It's going to say this is merely a temporary setback.
I'd like to show you my brother's grave sometime.
Great, when I feel like dancing.
And on Days of Our Lives, 2 characters stand out for me. One, John Black, who used to be the spy Forrest Alamein, who was brainwashed by my other favorite character, one of the most iconic villains of all daytime, and you know where I'm going with this, Stefano DiMera, a.k.a. the Phoenix.
You didn't think that I was going to reach in there for a gun, did you, John? My goodness, John, your nerves must be completely shot.
On the contrary, I've never felt better. Victory always makes a man stronger.
Why was he called the Phoenix? Because every time you think he dies, he comes back stronger than ever.
Damn. Has he died more than Jean Grey?
Yes, he has.
Smoore, who is your favorite, just on a purely aesthetic level, who's your favorite actress? Because I know isn't there one you have a particular shine for?
Kelly Monaco.
Yes.
Oh, Kelly Monaco. And when I worked on the lot, I saw her for the first time, and I just nearly peed my pants.
What's her character's name?
Her name is, oh, God.
He only knows the actress. And we're going to leave the pants peeing part in.
Samantha McCall. Her name is Samantha McCall.
Yeah.
Who is the daughter of Alexis Davis, who's actually a Cassadine, whose original name was Natasha Cassadine.
Wait, wasn't there someone else who you were into also before Kelly Monaco?
Well, back in the day, Laura Spencer, Jeannie Francis, if you see her younger day pictures, my God, she was stunning.
That's an interesting point because no other career really do you see people age with their characters. And of course they all got cast because they were very pretty on the eyes, but there is a sort of a loyalty, I think, with I don't know what it's like behind the scenes, but they do allow people to age. Now, granted, there are a few people in these shows that may have had some work, and we won't begrudge them that in this industry, but you do see them age, and they become grandparents. A lot of times they become grandparents at like 30 because they quickly age up their child so they can be an adult character, and then they,
By the way, that's a phenomenon in soap operas. You have a child, 3 years later, a child's a teenager, 2 years later, they're an adult running the industry.
Yeah, that's it.
But you know what, though? It's like, that's not just soaps. It's like we see that, again, in comic books and just regular sitcoms. I don't know how many times we've seen characters, I don't know, like Batman, Superman, they have kids and all of a sudden they're teenagers. And it's because it's for story purposes, they need to age these kids up. I think the Flash has a few kids too or something like that.
Right. That's just...
So like I guess anyone who says like questions like, you really watch soaps? People who ask if you're really watching soaps, it's kind of like, all right, if you watch Fast and the Furious, you watch soaps. If you're a wrestling fan, you watch soaps. If you like comic books, you like soaps.
Yeah.
But what was the Infinity Saga but a very expensive, very flashy in theater soap opera?
Yeah, it was a 22 film soap opera.
Well, Star Wars is a space opera, so
Space opera, yep. That's what a lot of these are. Space operas.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you guys know why it's called soap operas?
I don't.
So when soap operas started, roughly on radio in the 30s, they were sponsored primarily by soap companies, dishwashing laundry companies, soap companies. And so originally the name was almost a pejorative nickname. It's like, oh, it's another one of those soap operas because the sponsors were frequently soap dealers. And then it just stuck.
That's cool.
I feel bad that, we're going to end it here with 4 shows on air. And hopefully by the time our show gets up, those 4 will still be on. You never know in this landscape. I think everything's on hold. Yes, as this airs, the writer's strike is still in place. And I believe that does affect daytime drama too, correct?
It does.
Yeah. So I don't know. And, they've weathered a lot of things. And, I hope the ones that are still here last another couple decades because, 60 years, General Hospital, that's impressive.
I hope so. And I mean, it's fun entertainment. Yes, it's cheesy. Yes, a lot of the storylines are ridiculous. But like every other narrative story that people read, comic books, movies, it's fun. It's fun to watch. And it's fun watching pretty people do stupid things.
And frequently they have touched upon very groundbreaking stories. I believe General Hospital, just to name a few, were one of the first to deal with HIV. They had stories about rape and domestic violence. Abortion came up in daytime dramas. You name the social challenge of the day. I'm sure now, I don't watch them the way I used to, but I'm sure they deal with transgender perhaps and other things.
They deal with demonic possessions. As in taking their lives.
Yes, they deal with siblings that come back and take the place of their twin.
Well,
right?
Yeah, another popular storyline from years back was Sonny Corinthos and his father dealing with Alzheimer's.
That's right.
So that had a lot of critical acclaim. And if you go over to abc.com or download the ABC app, they actually have that whole storyline up there on one of the ad-supported channels, so you can binge all those episodes.
And if I recall, that storyline won a couple of Emmys as well, especially for Maurice Bernard and the actor Ron Gell, who played Sonny's dad.
Yeah, there's like 60 episodes up there, so go over there and watch it.
Well, guys, I think this is a good place to wrap up. Thank you, Smoore, actually, for being our super fan, but clearly Doc and I are no strangers to the genre.
Hey, currently I'm watching a K-drama, Crash Landing on You on Netflix. If you have a chance, it's good stuff. No Porkies, watch that.
Good. Okay.
Nice plug. Well, guys, this has been great. Personally, I really love soaps, particularly General Hospital and Days of Our Lives. Kind of has fond memories for me with my mom, and I just think it's a really wonderful genre that not sure if people take seriously, but it's been around for decades. And honestly, the narratives are fantastic. It's wacky, it's weird. It's like a comic book. And, if you haven't seen the soap, check one out just for giggles. I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. And with that, thanks again to those of you both openly geeky and closeted geeky for joining us on this expanded universe journey. This has been Smoore, and with me always is my geektacular co-hosts.
This is Doc.
And John H.H.
And remember that this is your safe space to talk about all things geeky and where you can get your geek on. Geek
out! That's old school. Thanks for listening to another episode of Cinema Craptaculus Presents The Expanded Universe with the Geeks. We'd also like to thank our fine sponsors. And if you'd like to help out the Expanded Universe and the Cinema Craptaculus channel, tell your friends to find us wherever they listen to their favorite podcasts and subscribe to our show. Give us a review. We appreciate that. We'd also like to give a shout out to some of the other great podcast shows out there. There's a new one on the scene in particular. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to love this podcast. It's called What Does Star Wars Mean to You? Or maybe I should announce it in the Clone Wars voice. What does Star Wars mean to you? It's hosted by our own Dave Humphreys, and he gets a lot of really cool guests who bring some sort of new story or angle or insight into Star Wars appreciation. Whether you're a young fan or an old fan, you're going to get something out of it. You can find What Does Star Wars Mean to You on all your favorite podcast platforms. So there you go, that's our recommendation. And we have a lot of cool stuff ourselves coming up here at the Cinema Craptaculus channel. So make sure, you keep an eye on your podcast app there to see what's new. And don't forget to do what the geeks say, geek out on whatever you like to geek out about. It's good for the soul.